Jax Marin had always felt like the universe was a place for other people, brilliant explorers, daring traders, and cunning pirates. For him, life had a simpler rhythm: fix a broken engine here, patch a leaking fuel conduit there, and avoid trouble as best he could. The outer rim of the Andralis sector was full of forgotten ships, drifting in silent orbit around dying stars, and that was where Jax thrived. His reputation among scavengers was modest but steady. He knew the insides of old ships better than anyone else in the sector. He moved carefully across the cracked hull of a small transport vessel, the soles of his boots clinging to the uneven metal. His toolkit hung at his side, worn from years of constant use, and his hands were already black with grease. The sky was a muted violet, the twin suns dipping below the edge of the asteroid belt, casting long, eerie shadows over the abandoned craft. Another day, another empty hold, Jax muttered to himself as he pried open a maintenance panel. Sparks flew from a corroded circuit board, illuminating his face for a brief moment. He sighed, brushing the grime from his cheek. There was always hope. Maybe this ship had a functional fusion cell, or at least some copper wiring. Something worth trading at the spaceport back on Kale's Rest. But today, luck had not been kind. A soft metallic clank made him freeze. He turned, expecting a stray droid scavenger or perhaps a drifting panel caught in the windless void. Instead, a small figure hovered a few feet above the ground. Its body was a patchwork of smooth alloy and older scarred plating. Jax squinted, trying to make sense of it. The droid's optics glowed faintly, a deep blue that seemed almost intelligent. "Hello, human," it said in a voice that was surprisingly calm, almost gentle. "I am VY9. I require your assistance." Jax blinked. "Assistance? From me? Look, buddy, I fix engines, I patch hulls, I do metal work, but I don't follow mysterious droids on unknown missions, especially not at dusk." VY9 tilted its head, as if studying him carefully. "You are skilled. You have the knowledge and the hands to interact with technology forgotten by time. There is a lost starship, hidden for centuries, and it requires your touch." Jax laughed, but it sounded hollow even to him. "A lost starship? Let me guess. It's full of ancient tech and deadly traps, and you, dear droid, need me to step into the middle of it all." "That's rich." "There is truth in my statement," VY9 replied, its tone firm, but not unkind. "The starship's location is known only to me. I cannot access it alone. You, however, may navigate what lies within." Jax wiped his hands on his worn coveralls, a sense of curiosity flickering in him despite his cautious nature. He had always felt there was more to life than scavenging. This sector, full of forgotten relics and silence, seemed almost to whisper secrets to him. Could this be one of them? "What's in it for me?" he asked, leaning against the ship's hull. "The knowledge and technology within can save lives, advance civilization, and perhaps even change the course of the galaxy." Jax frowned. That was a lot for someone like him, just a mechanic on the edge of the outer rim. But the words struck something inside him. A yearning he had tried to ignore for years. Adventure, purpose, the chance to be more than a shadow among drifting wrecks. "All right," he said finally, more to himself than to the droid. "Show me where this lost starship is. But if it's a trap, I swear—" VY9 did not interrupt, merely extended a slender arm, its sensors flickering with faint light. "The coordinates are here," it said. A small holographic map sprang to life above its hand, displaying a cluster of uncharted asteroids. Tiny points of light marked a path through twisting fields of rock and metal. "The starship lies beyond the Corval expanse. Only a being with your abilities can navigate the entryway." Jax studied the map, feeling the familiar thrill of exploration stir in his chest. His mind raced through calculations, plotting a course through the asteroid field. He knew the dangers. Ships were crushed in these fields daily, and without careful navigation, they could become space debris themselves. But the promise of discovery pushed him forward. "All right, VY9, let's go find your lost ship," he said, adjusting the straps on his toolkit. The journey was tense. Jax piloted his small scout ship through the Corval expanse, a labyrinth of jagged asteroids that seemed almost alive, twisting and tumbling through space. VY9 hovered beside him, its systems silently scanning, occasionally alerting him to a looming rock or unstable debris. Hours passed in silence, broken only by the hum of the ship's engines and the occasional soft voice from VY9. When they finally emerged into a calm section of space, the lost starship came into view. It was enormous, far larger than anything Jax had ever seen in the outer rim. Its hull was dark and matte, etched with strange angular sigils that pulsed faintly like the heartbeat of some sleeping giant. The air seemed to grow heavier in the cockpit as he stared at it. "It's beautiful," he whispered, awed. He had seen many wrecks, many abandoned ships, but none like this. The sheer scale and mystery of it pressed on him like gravity. VY9's optics glowed brighter. "The vessel is dormant, but not lifeless. It senses our presence. Entry is possible, but proceed with caution." Jax docked his ship at a protruding airlock, his heart pounding in his chest. The airlock hissed open, and the stale scent of centuries-old machinery filled the cabin. He stepped inside, toolkit in hand, and felt the weight of history pressing down on him. Every panel, every corridor seemed untouched by human hands, yet every system hummed with a hidden potential, as if waiting for someone to wake it. "This place, it's like it's alive," Jax murmured, tracing his fingers over a wall console. The metal was cold but smooth, and faint circuits glowed beneath its surface. VY9 followed silently, scanning everything with careful precision. "It is a repository of knowledge, technology, and power," it said softly. "The builders designed it to endure millennia, and to awaken only when deemed necessary. You have triggered that necessity." Jax swallowed hard. His curiosity had driven him this far, but now the enormity of the situation hit him. This was no ordinary salvage mission. This was history, technology, and perhaps life itself waiting for him to act. He moved deeper into the ship, each step echoing in the vast, empty corridors. Strange symbols lined the walls, glowing faintly as he passed, almost like they were acknowledging his presence. The air was heavy, but breathable, and a low hum seemed to vibrate from the core of the ship. At the heart of the vessel, he found a large chamber. A massive energy core dominated the center, pulsing gently with light. It was mesmerizing, almost hypnotic. Jax approached cautiously, his hands instinctively moving to examine the control panels around it. VY9 hovered nearby. "Do not touch the core recklessly. It is aware, intelligent. It evaluates all who approach." Jax nodded, feeling both fear and excitement. He had worked on engines and reactors before, but this was unlike anything he had ever seen. The core seemed to respond to his presence, flickering brighter as he stepped closer. "What are you?" he whispered. The hum of the core deepened, almost as if it were answering. His heart raced. For the first time in his life, Jax felt the universe was bigger than he had ever imagined, and that he had a role to play in it. Suddenly, the walls of the chamber shifted subtly. Panels and screens flickered to life, displaying star maps, alien scripts, and data streams that defied immediate comprehension. Jax realized the starship was not merely a vessel. It was a library, a guardian, and a sentinel all at once. VY9's voice was steady, but urgent. "It senses your intentions. Proceed carefully. The galaxy has been silent for centuries. Its awakening may break that silence." Jax took a deep breath. His hands hovered over the nearest console, feeling the hum of energy beneath his fingers. This was the moment that would change everything. Whatever lay within the ship was powerful, ancient, and aware. And now, it had noticed him. As he made the first deliberate interaction with the core, a pulse of light spread through the chamber. The hum grew louder, resonating through the starship and into the void of space. It was a sound that no one in centuries had heard, a voice that was not a voice, awakening from a long sleep. Jack stepped back, heart pounding. The air felt charged, alive. He looked at VY9, who simply nodded, its sensors glowing brighter. They had crossed a threshold. The starship had recognized them, and what it might do next was unknown. For the first time in his life, Jax felt the true weight of possibility. The universe had been silent, forgotten, and cold, but now it was stirring, and he, a simple mechanic from the outer rim, was at the center of its awakening. He did not yet know whether this awakening would bring knowledge, danger, or wonder, but he was ready. Somehow, he had been chosen to face what lay within the lost starship, and the galaxy itself would never be the same again. Jax Marin stood in the heart of the lost starship, staring at the pulsing energy core. Its glow filled the chamber, shifting through colors he had no names for, colors that seemed alive. The hum of the starship grew louder, vibrating through the floor beneath his boots, as if the ship itself were breathing. VY9 hovered silently beside him, its sensors scanning every panel, every shadow. "This is incredible," Jax whispered, unable to tear his eyes away from the core. "I've seen fusion engines, plasma conduits, and antimatter reactors, but nothing like this. It's alive." VY9's tone was calm, but serious. "It is more than alive. It is aware. The ship was created by an ancient civilization to preserve knowledge and to awaken only when it detected beings capable of understanding it. You, Jax, have been deemed worthy." Jax swallowed hard. He had never considered himself worthy of anything beyond fixing engines and scraping together a living. Yet here he was, standing in a ship that had been lost for centuries, a ship that might hold the knowledge of civilizations older than the galaxy itself. He took a cautious step closer. As he did, the panels on the walls shifted, aligning into patterns that made no sense at first. Symbols glowed faintly, then brighter, forming shapes that seemed to move and respond to his presence. The air shimmered, as if the room itself were alive, reacting to his thoughts and actions. "Be careful," VY9 warned. "Do not trigger anything you do not understand. The starship's systems are intelligent. It evaluates intentions as well as actions." Jax nodded, feeling the weight of the warning. He had always relied on his hands and his mind to solve problems, but this was unlike any challenge he had faced. This was not a broken engine or a failing hull. This was a living starship, ancient and powerful, and it had noticed him. He moved toward a console near the energy core, running his fingers over the smooth surface. As he touched it, a surge of light shot across the room, and a holographic display appeared in front of him. It showed star systems he had never seen, planets that did not appear on any current maps, and streams of data that flowed like rivers of light. "What is all this?" Jax asked, his voice barely audible. "It is knowledge," VY9 replied. "The starship was built to store information about the galaxy, its civilizations, and the natural laws that govern all existence. It was meant to awaken only when it sensed beings capable of understanding and protecting its purpose." Jax's mind raced. He had always dreamed of seeing the galaxy beyond the outer rim, but he had never imagined something like this. He reached out to touch the holographic display, and the streams of light responded to him, twisting and shifting as if acknowledging his presence. Suddenly, a low rumble echoed through the starship. The energy core pulsed faster, sending waves of light across the chamber. Jax staggered back. caught off guard by the intensity of the display. The walls around him began to shift, panels sliding and rearranging themselves, forming new corridors and opening hidden doors. "It's moving," Jax whispered, awe and fear mixed in his voice. "The ship! It's alive!" VY9 hovered closer. "It is responding to you. The awakening is beginning. But be aware, Jax, the galaxy will notice. Systems beyond this sector will detect the energy pulses. Others may come seeking the ship." Jax's stomach tightened. He had expected adventure, yes, but not attention from the rest of the galaxy. He had faced scavengers and pirates before, but nothing like the forces that could be drawn by the starship's awakening. Still, he felt a strange determination. If he could understand this ship, perhaps he could protect it, and in doing so, prove that humans were capable of more than just survival. He moved deeper into the ship, following the shifting corridors that seemed to guide him toward a central chamber. The walls were lined with strange devices and consoles, many of them glowing with soft light. Some displayed star charts, others streams of symbols he could not comprehend, and a few showed images of creatures he had never seen. As he explored, he noticed a soft voice, not from VY9, but from the ship itself. It was not words he could understand, but thoughts, feelings, impressions, an awareness that reached into his mind, testing him, studying him. I can hear you," Jax said, almost afraid to speak. "You're alive. You're watching me." VY9's sensors flickered. "It communicates through thought and energy. It is intelligent, not merely a machine." "Approach carefully, Jax. Do not act impulsively." Jax nodded, taking a deep breath. He approached a massive chamber at the center of the ship. The energy core's pulses grew stronger here, and the air felt charged with electricity. When he stepped into the room, he saw it. A figure composed of light and energy, floating above the core. Its form shifted constantly, flowing like liquid fire, and its presence filled the chamber with a sense of intelligence and power that was almost overwhelming. What are you?" Jax asked, his voice trembling slightly. The entity responded not in words, but in impressions. It was Lumen, the consciousness of the starship, created by a civilization long vanished. It had been tasked with preserving knowledge and awakening only when it sensed beings capable of understanding and using that knowledge responsibly. Jax felt a rush of awe and fear. He had never imagined meeting something like this. Not a machine, not a creature, but a being of pure intelligence and purpose. And yet, there was something reassuring about its presence, as if it recognized him as a worthy participant in whatever lay ahead. "You are human," Lumen's thoughts reached him directly. "You are fragile but curious. You are capable of creation, destruction, and understanding. Why have you come?" Jack swallowed hard. I didn't know this place existed. I followed VY9 here. I wanted to see, to understand. I've always wanted to do more than survive. I wanted to be more than myself." There was a pause. A moment when the energy pulses softened and the light around Lumen seemed to dim slightly. Then it responded, not with judgment, but with observation. "You have curiosity. You have ingenuity. You have courage. These are qualities that may serve the galaxy well. But your understanding must be tested. Only those capable of making choices guided by wisdom and cooperation can access the knowledge within me." Jax felt both challenged and honored. He had never faced a test like this, not in school, not in his work, not in any life he had known. Yet somehow he understood that this was his moment, to prove that humans, despite their smallness in the vast galaxy, could rise to greatness. As he spoke to Lumen, the energy core's pulses became synchronized with his heartbeat. The starship itself seemed to hum with life, responding to his presence and his intentions. Jax realized that the awakening was not just about him, it was about the galaxy. The knowledge and power contained within the starship could alter civilizations, advance technology, and perhaps even reshape the balance of life among the stars. VY9 hovered closer, its sensors flickering rapidly. Jax, other systems are detecting the energy pulses. If fleets or governments learn of this starship, they may arrive with hostile intentions. You must act carefully. Jax nodded, determination setting in. Then I'll have to show them that humans can be responsible, that we can handle this without violence. He turned back to Lumen, extending his hands toward the energy core. I'm ready. Teach me. Let me understand. Let me prove that humanity can rise to the challenge. The chamber pulsed with light, brighter than he had ever seen, and the walls seemed to dissolve into streams of energy. Jax felt himself lifted slightly, weightless, as if the ship itself were guiding him. Images, knowledge, and sensations flooded his mind, visions of civilizations, star systems, and technologies beyond comprehension. He saw history and possibilities, conflicts avoided, discoveries made, and peace achieved. It was overwhelming, but he did not panic. He focused, relying on his intuition, his curiosity, and his ability to solve problems. He realized that Lumen was not just giving him knowledge, it was testing him, seeing whether he could absorb, understand, and act responsibly. Hours seemed to pass, though time had little meaning inside the starship. Jax moved through the visions, learning, adapting, and responding. He saw the potential dangers, civilizations that might misuse knowledge, fleets that might try to seize the ship, and technologies that could be weaponized if handled without care. But he also saw the potential for good, alliances, cooperation, and the spread of understanding across the galaxy. Finally, the pulsing energy began to slow, and the overwhelming visions receded. Jax found himself back in the central chamber, the energy core now glowing steadily, not violently. Lumen's presence filled the room, but it was calm, measured, and approving. You have proven yourself capable? Lumen's thoughts reached him. You understand responsibility, cooperation, and the value of knowledge. You may now access the ship's full potential, and the galaxy may benefit from what you choose to share. Jax felt a rush of relief and pride. He had faced something greater than himself, something beyond imagination, and had succeeded. Yet he knew the challenge was not over. The galaxy was vast, and other eyes would notice the awakening. He would need to act wisely, to protect Lumen and the knowledge it held, and to show that humans were capable of rising to the responsibilities that came with such power. VY9 hovered beside him, sensors steady. Jax, the next step is crucial. You must decide how to use this awakening, how to communicate with the galaxy, and how to protect what you have discovered. Jax nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. He had crossed a threshold, from a simple mechanic to a guardian of knowledge, a witness to awakening, and perhaps a symbol of humanity's potential. The galaxy had stirred from its silence, and now it was his task to guide what came next. He looked at Lumen, at the glowing core, and then back at VY9. We have a lot of work to do, he said. And for the first time in his life, he felt truly ready. Jax Marin felt a strange calm as he stood in the heart of the lost starship, watching the energy of Lumen settle into a steady glow. The ship had awakened, and with its awakening, the galaxy had begun to stir. He could feel it, subtle vibrations in the void, signals traveling faster than any communication system, disturbances in nearby sectors. The energy core pulsed gently, a heartbeat that seemed to echo across star systems. VY9 hovered beside him, sensors flickering with constant updates. The awakening is being noticed, Jax. Other civilizations may perceive this as a threat, a power to claim. We must act quickly. Jax nodded. He had spent the past hours exploring the starship's systems, understanding its functions, and absorbing what knowledge Lumen was willing to share. The experience had been overwhelming. Streams of history, technology, and intelligence from a civilization long vanished, but he had retained enough to understand the responsibility now resting on his shoulders. "We need a plan," Jax said, his voice calm but determined. "Lumen is alive, aware, and powerful. But the galaxy, it's not ready to understand. If fleets come looking, they might not see this as knowledge to protect. They could see it as a weapon." VY9's sensors flickered in agreement. "Correct. Many factions in the galaxy are driven by fear or greed. We must demonstrate that humans can act responsibly." Jax's mind raced. He had never led armies or negotiated treaties. He was a mechanic, a scavenger, someone used to working with tools and machines. Yet now, he faced the weight of the galaxy's reaction to this starship. Somehow, he had to prove that humans, fragile and limited though they might be, could be trusted with extraordinary power. He moved to the bridge of the starship, a massive expanse filled with consoles, holographic displays, and controls unlike anything he had seen. The room was alive with light and energy, flowing in patterns that shifted and adapted as he moved. Lumen's presence filled the room, a constant awareness guiding him, teaching him, yet allowing him freedom to act. "First, we need to understand who is noticing us," Jax said, scanning the displays. Streams of data flowed across the holograms, signals from distant star systems, fleets moving along trade routes, and transmissions from nearby colonies. Many were curious, some wary, and a few were already redirecting ships toward the coordinates of the lost starship. VY9 projected a map of the surrounding sector. "These are the fleets most likely to arrive first," it said, highlighting clusters of ships in motion. "Some are exploration vessels, others are military. They will respond to the energy signature. You must decide how to present yourself and the starship." Jax clenched his fists, determination burning in his chest. He had always believed humans could rise above fear and violence, but now he would have to prove it. "We need to show them we are not a threat, that we come in peace, that knowledge, not power, is our goal." VY9's sensors blinked in approval. "Agreed. But you must also prepare for the possibility that not all will respond peacefully. Some may attempt to seize the starship or destroy it." Jax took a deep breath. "Then we'll need a demonstration of our capability and restraint, something that proves we can protect this knowledge without using it as a weapon." He moved to a console that displayed the energy core, and with Lumen's guidance, began preparing a controlled release of energy. Not enough to harm, not enough to intimidate, but enough to communicate across the void. He envisioned it as a message, a signal to the galaxy that this starship was aware, intelligent, and peaceful, and that its guardians were capable of careful, thoughtful action. As he initiated the sequence, the ship hummed with life. Streams of energy flowed outward, forming patterns in the void that could be interpreted as signals by civilizations sensitive to energy pulses. Jax monitored the output carefully, adjusting the flow to ensure clarity and intent. "This is incredible," he whispered, watching the patterns form. "We're communicating with the galaxy itself." VY9's sensors flickered. "It will be noticed, Jax. Reactions may vary. Some will be curious, some fearful, and some opportunistic. You must be ready to act." Hours passed, and the first responses arrived. Hollow messages flickered across the displays, explorers, scientists, and diplomats from nearby systems, curious about the anomaly. They asked questions, broadcast signals of inquiry, and attempted to establish communication. Jax responded carefully, using Lumen's guidance to maintain clarity and demonstrate intent. "We are humans," he transmitted, voice steady. "We have discovered a starship containing knowledge and intelligence from a civilization long gone. We seek understanding, protection, and cooperation. We are not a threat. The responses varied. Some sent greetings, others caution, and a few questioned his motives. But slowly, a pattern emerged. Curiosity outweighed aggression, and dialogue began to form. Jax felt a sense of relief. He had feared that the awakening would provoke violence, that fleets would arrive with weapons ready. But instead, many civilizations were reaching out, intrigued by the presence of knowledge and intelligence. Yet not all was calm. In the distance, larger fleets began to mobilize, attracted by the starship's energy signature. These were not explorers or scientists. They were military vessels, calculating risk, assessing opportunity, and preparing to act. Jax knew he could not prevent them from arriving entirely, but he could prepare. "We need a plan for their arrival," he said to VY9. "We can't fight them, but we can show them again that humans can act responsibly." VY9 projected simulations of possible encounters, mapping strategies that minimized risk while maximizing communication. Jax studied each scenario carefully, noting potential pitfalls and opportunities. He realized that his strength lay not in firepower, but in ingenuity, creativity, and the ability to think faster than machines designed for combat. As he worked, Lumen communicated directly with him, sharing insights about the galaxy, history, and the civilizations that might respond. The knowledge was vast, overwhelming, yet manageable with focus and patience. Jax absorbed it, learning not just about technology, but about diplomacy, ethics, and the potential for humans to guide others through cooperation rather than force. The first fleet arrived at the edge of the star system. Massive ships moved with precision, sensors scanning for threats. Jax initiated a visual and energy-based signal, a demonstration of the starship's intelligence and peaceful intent. Streams of light formed intricate patterns, resonating with harmonic pulses that could be interpreted as both communication and reassurance. A tense silence followed. Then a message appeared from the fleet's command vessel. "Identify yourselves. Explain your purpose. Are you hostile?" Jax responded, voice steady. "We are humans. We have discovered a starship containing knowledge and intelligence from a civilization long gone. We seek understanding and cooperation. We are not hostile. We request dialogue." The response was delayed, then cautious acceptance. A delegation requested to communicate directly, and Jax guided the starship to project a controlled environment where representatives could observe without danger. Holographic displays formed around the visitors, showing Lumen, its intelligence, and the controlled flow of knowledge. The delegation was awed. They had expected power, perhaps a weapon, but instead found intelligence, curiosity, and restraint. They asked questions, learned from Jax's explanations, and began to understand that humans had the capacity for responsibility and wisdom. Yet Jax knew the challenge was ongoing. More fleets were en route. And not all would react with curiosity or respect. Some might see the starship's awakening as an opportunity to seize power. Others might fear it and respond aggressively. He worked tirelessly, coordinating with Lumen and VY9 to prepare defenses that were non-lethal but effective, ensuring that any aggressive approach could be met with containment and communication rather than destruction. He organized signals, simulations, and projections, demonstrating human ingenuity and adaptability. Hours turned into days. Each new fleet brought challenges, but also opportunities. Jax communicated carefully, balancing honesty, clarity, and reassurance. He explained humanity's intentions, the role of Lumen, and the potential for cooperation across civilizations. Slowly, a network of understanding formed. The galaxy was beginning to recognize that humans, though young and limited, could act with wisdom and foresight. One night, standing on the bridge with VY9, Jax gazed out at the stars. The energy pulses from the starship shimmered across the void, a message of awakening, knowledge, and hope. "We're really doing it," he said quietly. "We're showing the galaxy that humans can rise to the challenge." VY9 hovered silently, its sensors steady. "Indeed, your actions demonstrate ingenuity, courage, and wisdom. You are becoming a symbol not only of human capability, but of the potential for cooperation in the galaxy." Jack smiled, exhaustion mixing with pride. He had never sought glory, never imagined himself a hero, yet here he was, standing at the center of a moment that could change the galaxy forever. The lost starship had awakened, and with it, humanity had proven that it could rise above fear, greed, and limitations. The galaxy was watching, and for the first time, Jax realized that humans were ready to play a meaningful role among the stars. The challenge was far from over, but the foundation had been laid. The energy of Lumen pulsed in harmony with the efforts of humanity, and together, they had begun a new chapter in the history of the stars. Jax took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders, yet buoyed by the knowledge that humans could rise to meet it. "Tomorrow," he said softly, "we continue. We protect, we guide, and we show the galaxy what humanity can do." VY9's sensors glimmered with approval. "Agreed. The journey has just begun, and your actions will shape what comes next." Jax looked out at the vast expanse. Stars twinkling like diamonds scattered across the black canvas of space. The lost starship, ancient and alive, had awakened. The galaxy had noticed, and humans, fragile, resilient, and endlessly curious, were ready to meet the future with courage, wisdom, and heart. Jax Marin stood on the bridge of the lost starship, watching the galaxy stretch out before him. Stars shimmered in endless patterns, their light reflecting on the polished surfaces of the massive vessel. Lumen, the ship's energy-conscious entity, pulsed steadily at the heart of the starship, its glow a soft rhythm that filled the bridge with a sense of calm power. Yet despite the serenity inside, the galaxy beyond the ship was beginning to stir in unpredictable ways. VY9 hovered beside him, sensors flickering with constant updates. "The fleets are moving closer, Jax. Some are curious, others cautious, and a few may be aggressive. They will reach the system within hours." Jax exhaled slowly, feeling both the weight and the excitement of the moment. He had spent days coordinating communication, demonstrating intent, and proving that humans could act responsibly with knowledge far beyond their years. But now, the ultimate test had arrived. The galaxy would see the lost starship fully awake, and it would judge whether humans were worthy of guiding its knowledge. He activated the bridge's main display, showing the fleets approaching from multiple directions. Massive vessels of various designs, some sleek and scientific, others imposing and armed, moved like predators drawn to a signal. Jax's hands hovered over the controls, ready to act, but he knew that brute force would not succeed. The solution had to be intelligence, strategy, and humanity itself. "Lumen," he said softly, "we need to show them everything, but in a way that proves we are responsible. Can you do it?" The entity's pulse shifted in affirmation. Thoughts and impressions filled Jax's mind, images of civilizations, knowledge, and energy, carefully filtered to communicate purpose and peace. Lumen's power would be displayed not as a weapon, but as a testament to wisdom, intelligence, and restraint. Jax began the sequence. Energy streams flowed through the starship, forming a holographic projection visible even from space. Ships in the approaching fleet slowed, scanning and analyzing the signals. Patterns of light and sound moved with precision, conveying intelligence, harmony, and peaceful intent. Lumen's presence became apparent. Not threatening, but magnificent, a beacon of knowledge and understanding. Messages from the distant fleets arrived almost immediately. Questions, greetings, and cautious approvals filled the communications channels. Jax responded, voice calm and steady, explaining the purpose of the starship, the awakening, and humanity's role as guardians and facilitators. He spoke of cooperation, protection of knowledge, and the importance of understanding over conquest. Not all responses were welcoming. Some fleets moved cautiously closer, weapons ready but not deployed, testing the ship's intent. Jax anticipated this. Using the starship's systems, he projected harmless energy barriers, controlled pulses, and holographic representations that emphasized defense and communication rather than attack. Each gesture demonstrated intelligence and restraint. VY9 monitored every interaction, advising and calculating probabilities. Your actions are being observed, Jax. Success depends on maintaining trust, demonstrating capability, and avoiding aggression. Humans are being evaluated as much as the starship. Jax nodded. I understand. We need to prove that humanity can rise to the challenge without fear, without violence, and with wisdom. As the first delegation approached, a large, sleek exploration vessel with sensors designed to detect artificial intelligence and energy manipulation, Jax initiated direct communication. The holographic display expanded, revealing the starship's core and Lumen's consciousness in a form designed to convey both intelligence and benevolence. I am Jax Marin, he began, a human and a guardian of this starship. You have detected its awakening, and we understand your caution. We seek knowledge, understanding, and cooperation. This ship is not a weapon, but a repository of intelligence and history meant to benefit the galaxy. We ask for dialogue and partnership. The delegation responded with questions, some skeptical, some curious. Jax answered each with clarity and honesty, aided by Lumen's guidance. He demonstrated the ship's non-lethal capabilities, its ability to communicate across vast distances, and the potential for shared learning among civilizations. Slowly, the skepticism faded. Representatives began to acknowledge the humanity of the voice they were hearing. The starship's awakening was no longer a threat, but a phenomenon of wonder and hope. Jax's calm, thoughtful, and intelligent responses proved that humans were capable of managing immense responsibility. Yet, not all fleets were easily convinced. One approaching armada, large and heavily armed, calculated a risk and moved aggressively toward the system. Jax recognized the danger. These were not explorers. They were opportunists, seeking to claim the starship's power. He took a deep breath, focusing on strategy rather than force. Using the starship's systems, he created controlled illusions of defenses, energy grids, shifting barriers, and simulations of potential consequences, but without causing harm. The message was clear. The starship could defend itself, but humans preferred intelligence over aggression. The Armada paused, scanning, analyzing. Jax initiated direct communication. We do not seek conflict, he said firmly. This ship is a guardian of knowledge, and its purpose is to advance understanding, not destroy. Cooperation is the only way forward. You may approach, but know that aggression will not succeed. We are prepared to protect life and knowledge without violence. There was a tense moment of silence. Then, surprisingly, the Armada reduced speed, sending representatives to observe rather than attack. Jax exhaled, relief washing over him. He had managed the most dangerous test yet, convincing potential adversaries that intelligence, courage, and diplomacy were stronger than weapons alone. The starship's energy pulses stabilized, spreading throughout the system in waves of light that could be perceived even from nearby sectors. Other fleets, seeing this demonstration, responded positively. Curiosity turned into dialogue, and suspicion gradually shifted to trust. Humanity, represented by Jax, had proven that intelligence and restraint could shape outcomes even in a galaxy full of uncertainty. Days passed, and more civilizations arrived, drawn by the awakening and the controlled displays of power and wisdom. Jax coordinated with Lumen, carefully selecting what knowledge to share, ensuring that sensitive technologies or dangerous secrets remained protected until civilizations demonstrated responsibility. He facilitated communication between humans and alien species, guiding discussions, sharing insights, and promoting collaboration. The galaxy was beginning to recognize humanity not as a fledgling species struggling to survive, but as a force capable of leadership, understanding, and protection. Jax felt a deep sense of pride, not for personal glory, but for what humans could achieve when guided by curiosity, intelligence, and ethical responsibility. VY9 hovered beside him, a quiet presence in the midst of the vast bustling command center. Your actions are remarkable, Jax. Humans have been underestimated, yet you have proven ingenuity, courage, and wisdom. You have created trust where others might have expected conflict. Jax smiled, exhaustion mixed with satisfaction. We're only getting started. Lumen's knowledge is vast, and the galaxy is larger than we can imagine. But this is the beginning. Humans can rise to the challenge if given the chance. As the days turned into weeks, a new order began to emerge. Civilizations formed alliances, inspired by the example set by Jax and the lost starship. Knowledge was shared responsibly, and disputes that might have led to war were resolved through dialogue. Humanity's reputation grew, not through conquest or fear, but through intelligence, creativity, and moral courage. The energy core of the starship pulsed steadily, a constant reminder of the awakening and the responsibility that came with it. Jack spent hours each day learning, coordinating, and guiding, but he also took moments to simply observe the beauty of the galaxy. Stars twinkled in patterns that seemed alive, planets glimmered with potential, and life thrived in ways he had never imagined. One evening, as he stood on the bridge, watching fleets communicate across the void, he reflected on the journey. He had started as a simple mechanic, scavenging broken ships in the outer rim. He had followed a mysterious droid, discovered a lost starship, and awakened an intelligence that had slept for centuries. Along the way, he had faced fear, doubt, and the potential for conflict, yet he had guided humanity to a position of trust and respect in the galaxy. VY9 hovered silently, observing the fleets and energy patterns. The galaxy has been forever changed, Jax. Your actions, your decisions, and your courage have demonstrated that humans are capable of leadership, wisdom, and cooperation. The awakening was only the first step. The future now depends on your continued guidance. Jax nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility once more. I understand. The galaxy is vast, full of potential and danger. But humans, we have a chance to rise. We have a chance to show that curiosity, intelligence, and compassion can shape the stars themselves. Lumen's presence filled the bridge, gentle but powerful. Thoughts and impressions reached him. Congratulations, approval, and encouragement. The starship had been awakened not only by his curiosity and skill, but by his courage, moral clarity, and willingness to cooperate. It recognized that humanity, though young and fragile, could rise to greatness. Jax took a deep breath, feeling the rhythm of the starship's pulse in sync with his own heartbeat. The galaxy had been quiet for centuries, but now it was alive, buzzing with communication, collaboration, and curiosity. Humans had proven their worth, not through weapons or conquest, but through intelligence, creativity, and moral courage. He looked at VY9 and said quietly, "We did it. Humanity has begun to shine among the stars." The droid's sensors flickered in acknowledgement. Indeed, and this is only the beginning. The knowledge, The cooperation and the potential for peace will continue to grow, guided by the example you have set. Jax turned back to the vast expanse outside the bridge, watching the stars twinkle like diamonds scattered across the black canvas of space. The lost starship, ancient and alive, had awakened. The galaxy had noticed, and humanity, fragile yet resilient, had proven that it could rise to meet the challenges of the universe. The journey ahead would be long, filled with new discoveries, challenges, and responsibilities. But for the first time, Jax Marin felt certain that humans were ready. They had awakened the galaxy not through force, but through courage, intelligence, and heart. And in doing so, they had shown that the future was theirs to shape, responsibly, wisely, and with the potential to guide the stars themselves. For a simple mechanic from the outer rim, this was more than he had ever imagined. It was the beginning of a new era for humanity, for the galaxy, and for the lost starship that had awakened, forever changing the course of history.